Welcome, everybody, to the Jim Masters Show Live. How are you today? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're having a great day. And if you're not, we're here to pick up your spirits with our entertainment lifestyle talk show series, now in week number 24. And it's really a pleasure to have you here just about every single night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, live worldwide. And again, we have great guests and incredible commentary, terrific conversations. Matter of fact, we've been bringing back the lost art of conversation for sure on this show every single night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, with viewers, or as we call them, lovedies, watching from all points of the globe, too, as we feature great guests and we do on-location segments and we do pop-up shows and we have conversations and entertainment and so much more from just about every category of life you can think of, from health and wellness to science and nature and food, culinary arts, talking a lot about food on this show, and music, Broadway, Hollywood, television, film, inspiration, science, you name it, right here on this entertainment lifestyle talk show series, the Jim Masters Show Live. We toast all of you as well, like we like to do at the beginning of the show. We welcome everybody from all around the world. I toast you and you and you and you. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've got a great show. Steve SCHALCHLIN is with us here. He's an award-winning composer and musician and actor as well. And he's really a cool guy. And he's going to be telling us about a poignant story as well. He's going to be opening up and sharing about his life. You may have heard some of it. If you haven't, it's going to be quite riveting and very moving and inspirational. Plus, he's also going to play live for us as well. He's all set up at his keyboard. He's ready to go, and he's going to play some fantastic live music for us as well. So we're honored to have him here. We're honored to have all of you here on the show as well. Let's say hello to lots of our viewers and our lovedies from around the world. Christine Clifton in North Carolina. Good evening, Jim and lovedies. We welcome composer, actor, musician Steve SCHALCHLIN to the show. Looking forward to an entertaining conversation soon. Absolutely. Good to see you, Christine. Merlin here from Canada. Hello, Jim and all the lovedies. Good to see you, Merlin, as well. Willie is here from the Netherlands. Good to see you, Willie. Welcome. Mary Bishop is here as well. Hi, Mary. Good to see you. Hi, Jim and the lovedies. Jennifer Barry in Allentown, Pennsylvania. You're kitchen dancing. You love our theme song to the beginning and the close of our show, right? With the Jim Masters Singers and Orchestra. Good to see you, Jen. Bernadette is here. Hello, Jim and all lovedies. Good to see you as well, Bernadette. Hope you're doing well. Juanita in South Africa is here. Hello, Jim and everyone. Good to see you, Juanita. And finally, a top fan. Oh, that's terrific. So Facebook finally gave you that designation as a top fan on my Facebook page at Jim Masters TV. Congratulations. That's something that I think Facebook had to sort of randomly do on their own. And I'm glad that happened for you today, Willie. Good evening, Jim and everyone. Love the photos of the fall foliage. Yes, the ones that we posted on Facebook today and Instagram. Autumn in New England is something special for sure. Thank you very much. You're liking the Brooks Brothers sweater I'm wearing tonight with the colorful stripes. Thank you very much, Bernadette. Hey, Jim, you're cooking a breakfast dinner now? Oh, that's nice. That's fantastic. Send some north our way here. Cheers from everybody who is watching right now. Mary and Merlin and Willie. Appreciate that. They love when we toast here on the show. Slancha, you as well. Claudia in Illinois. Hello, Jim and lovedies. Happy Tuesday. Halloween is coming, and we're going to be doing a special Halloween costume party episode. Take a look at our Facebook page at Jim Masters TV for more information. Send in those costume photos as well. Ralph Lampkin here. Good evening, Jim, Steve. Have a fantastic show. Thanks for watching in Indiana. Ralph as well. MJ Hammond is here. Hi, Jim and all our lovedies. Good to see you, MJ, watching on the YouTube channel. Marcia Murphy Watson. Hello, everyone. Yes, I love the video that you sent as well. Thank you for sending that, Bernadette. Really nice. And Gabby is here. Gabby and Alec from Olympia, Washington. Good to see you, Gabby and Alec. Welcome to the show. Kathleen Walker in New York City. Hi, Jim and everyone. We welcome everybody to the show, and we've got a very special guest that we're going to be chatting with, and a legend in the music industry, and very excited to welcome him to the show. Steve SCHALCHLIN is here on the program, and if you know his story, then you know it is quite inspirational. If you don't, let me tell you just a little bit about his story. Well, first, he's an American songwriter, an actor, and musician. He is widely regarded as one of the first HIV/AIDS bloggers as well, beginning that in 1996 to keep family and friends updated on what was at that time his failing health. And we responded well to a last-ditch effort and treatment by his doctor. He found out that his little AIDS blog had garnered a net following. That's right. A respected songwriter. He put his rebound into music, into his partner as well, and playwright Jim Barshou turned into critically acclaimed The Last Season. 2001, the New York Times profiled Steve's groundbreaking diary. The Times has also raved about Steve's and Jim's musicals, The Last Session. That's The Last Session, we're saying, The Last Session. And The Big Voice, God or Merman. Steve is cited as Sean Decker's 2006 book, My Pet Virus, as an important historical AIDS blogger and an inspiration for Decker's own AIDS blogging efforts. George Michael actually allowed Steve to play John Lennon's Imagine piano in front of Gabby and Alec Clayton in memory of their son, Bill, who had committed suicide after a gay bashing incident. Steve's personal video blogs of the event are available on YouTube. His song, My Thanksgiving Prayer, was selected to honor the 30th anniversary of the Beirut barracks bombing, honoring the 241 Marines, sailors, and soldiers who served as peacekeepers in Beirut, Lebanon, 1982 to 1984. Killed on October 23rd, 1983. His awards and his accolades are extensive and extraordinary. Best musical score from the LA Drama Critics Circle in 1997 and 2003. Best LA Theater Production, GLAAD Media Awards in 97. Best musical from LA Ovation Awards in 2005. That is Los Angeles's equivalent of the Tony. Best musical nomination from the New York Drama League in 1997, Best Musical nomination, New York Outer Critics Circle in 1997, Best Theatrical Production nomination, Off-Broadway, GLAAD Media Awards in 2004, Best Theatrical Production nomination, LA GLAAD Media Awards 2004, and on and on. So many awards, it would take us an hour just to list them all, but he is, again, amazing at what he does, and we're very honored to have him here live and direct from his home in New York City. Won't you join me in welcoming our very, very special guest, Steve SCHALCHLIN, to the show. He's all set up at the piano, too. Steve, good evening and welcome. It's great to have you with us. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you. I've been enjoying your show. I started after my friend Ralph told me about it. I started watching some of your shows, and I love your positivity and your lovities and all of that stuff. I think it's great.
I tell you, we need a lot more of that in this world about now, don't we? I know you're.
Well, we
you're
really
big for
do.
that.
We live in a really negative world, and the social media has not made that, has only amplified the negative voices. It's very hard for people to, it's very hard for social media to really handle happiness. I don't know, or positivity. I don't know why that is.
Steve's a school teacher. We got it. Ralph is session.
The last session.
Season. Yes, sir. Everybody's a critic. Good evening, Jim and Steve. Even live, you can't get away from it. Can't wait to take a day off. Bernadette says, welcome, Steve, to Loverty Hall.
Thank you, Bernadette.
Says, welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Says, welcome, Steve, to Loverty Hall. Kathleen says, hi, Jim and everyone. She's in New York. And
Hi.
Gabby is here with Alec.
My heart, my love.
Yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful, beautiful story. And Wozniak is saying hello to you, Steve, as well. Willie, who is in Holland, and it's 1 a.m. Welcome, Steve, to the best show from the world, Jim Master Show. Thank you very much. We appreciate that, Willie. Juanita, South Africa, welcomes you to the show as well. Mary Bishop welcomes you. Lots of lovity. They're going to welcome you to Loverty Hall. And look, Marilyn already has from Wichita, Kansas. Welcome, Steve. You are a lovity.
I am. I'm a lovity.
That's it. Good evening, Jim and Steve, from Kathy, and from Allentown, Pennsylvania. Good evening, Jim. And let's see, Jennifer. Sometimes these move so fast, it makes your head spin. Jennifer Barry. Hey, Steve.
Hey.
That's Allentown. Gabby. Hey, Shaq. Claudia. Illinois. Welcome. Brazil is in the house. Carla, hey Jim, hey Steve
Hey,
from
Brazil.
Carla. She's a wonderful lovely on our show. And Michael is here and welcomes you as well. So we welcome all these fantastic, even more, a few more here. Skipped by. Billy Boy is here. Hey Steve, my friend.
Hey, Billy Boy.
Tesla Bella is a little bit of that Southern coming in there. I love that. Welcome, Steve. Happy to be here with you and Jim and Lovety Hall.
Well, I am from Texas, even though I'm in New York. I am from Texas, so it's gonna pop through every once in a while.
That's it. Absolutely. Welcome to Lovety Hall, Steve from Marcia. And Bernadette says,
thank you.
I can tell this is going to be another amazing night of music, chat, and stories. Ralph says, going to be great. And he's in Indiana. Christine in North Carolina. Cheers. Welcome, Steve, to Lovety Hall. You are now a Lovety.
Yay!
Or a Lovety. So I mentioned some of the earlier beginnings for you, and it's been an extraordinary experience. I mean, you're an award-winning composer, musician, actor, and your body of work is extraordinary. But along with that, sort of simultaneously, is this whole story about HIV and AIDS and the experiences that you've gone through, and even today still continue to go through. Walk us through the beginnings of that in the earlier years and what that was like for you, and how some of those experiences might have even influenced some of the work that you do, and the music and the stories that you tell and the stories that you've shared with so many people, Steve.
Sure. Well, in 1993 or 4, now if it's so long ago now I've forgotten, I tested positive for HIV. And then a year later, I was in the hospital, just really on my deathbed. I looked like a skeleton. And they barely got me back to life. They had this horrible antibiotic they fed me that on my taste in my mouth changed, and it was all pretty rotten. But all during this time in 1995, when I could finally sit up again after about a year, I started playing some music. I hadn't touched the piano in a while because I couldn't sit up. Started playing some songs, and my partner Jim and my friends started to notice that every time I sang one of those songs, I could breathe easier, I could sit up better. And one day I sat down at the piano and I just started playing music all day long, just playing all my favorite chords, just having fun. And the next day, the day before, when I was doing that, I felt like I had worked up my body strength to like maybe 70% strong. And the very next day, my body was at like 95%. I could tell there was a measurable difference between when I started playing the music and the very next day. And I thought, the healing power of music is not a wives' tale. It really had an effect that I could feel. So I just started writing more songs, and Jim Brochu, who's an author and a playwright. Jim Brochu, he started giving me homework assignments. Hey, write about that group you went to. Hey, write about this. Hey, write about that. So here I am, half dead, and he's giving me homework. And I started writing these songs, and after it was really only just a couple of months, they were just popping out of me as fast as I could write them.
So he probably gave you that work to do to sort of take your mind off things and keep those creative juices flowing, right? He knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing, and he could see the effect it was having on me. And I don't think there's anything more healing than focusing on something artistic or making a personal, like exposing all of your feelings and getting it all out. That's why we have therapy, right?
That's
right.
So
it's musical therapy. So about a few months later, we went over to a friend's house, and he had a little home studio set up. And he said, "Hey, why don't you play some of those songs that you've been writing?" So I sat down at his little studio, started to play it. And Jim, who is a playwright, said, "I just saw the whole play in my head. I just saw a whole musical in my head." My plan was to book a night at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. We lived in LA at the time, and to just do I would have one last concert. That was going to be my dream, to have one last concert, invite all my friends, say, here's what I went through, and then go and die the next day. That was the plan. And he said, but if we turn this into a musical, your music will outlast you, and it'll be something. So he wrote it, and just a few months after that, it was in February of 1996, we did a stage reading at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, and the audience just I've never seen anything like it. They were explosive, and this was a room full of songwriters, and songwriters are tough because they already know what's good and what's not good, and they don't sit there and get into the song. They sit there and go, okay, that was a nice line, okay, that was a good verse, like comedians telling jokes to each other. They don't laugh, they just go, oh, that was funny. Well, everybody was in tears, everybody was screaming and crying. It was really fantastic. And so a few months later, and then in March, the very next month, my friend Rhonda Espy and Kim Espy at Espy Music gave me a computer. And the internet was brand new. I mean, nobody had a website. It was brand new thing. So I thought, I bet I could stick up a little GeoCities. They had free websites. I don't know if you remember, GeoCities was the first place where you get your own website. It was like, ooh. So I started my website. I started keeping a daily diary of how I was feeling. And I was dying at the time. I started to fail right after that first workshop. Like I had put all this energy into writing the songs, and now my body was starting to music can last for so long, but then you need help after that. And I started to fail. So I'm documenting all of this, and I'm telling about going to the doctor and yelling at my doctor and being, it's all these different things, just being as honest as I possibly could. And the next thing you know, in July or June and July, we put on a little 3-week workshop right in downtown on Melrose Avenue in Los Angeles. And the month before, just a few weeks before, there was a knock on the door, and somebody had delivered a package, and it was a brand new experimental drug. Now, there had been a few of these that I had tried, and they were all horrible, and I hated them all. And so I even wrote in the diary, okay, here's another stupid drug, and I was getting cynical. I was getting kind of hard because I knew I was not getting better, and I had diarrhea, my stomach hurt, I'd lost all this weight. It was really pretty horrible. And I started taking that drug, and it was like maybe a week later, I wrote in the diary, I've stopped having diarrhea. It was like the greatest, after the 3 years, like the greatest night of my life. Yeah.
One of the simple things in life meaning so much to you, to have that not happen. Right.
Yeah. Especially after 3 years, and it was constant. So it was draining all of the life out of me.
Dehydration, everything. Yeah.
Really horrible. And they hooked me up to, they were feeding me intravenously. And then they said, okay, we're going to do this workshop on Melrose Avenue. Well, I was getting up out of bed after being fed 14 hours a day and wrapping the bandage around my arm where they had this thing stuck all the way up, where they had a tube stuck all the way up my veins. And I would go down and we'd rehearse and we would start doing the show. So I'm sitting here doing the show. I'd never acted before. And one of the nice things about it is we cast some young people, and one of them was Chip Eston, who went on to become the big star of Nashville and was just on TV last night doing Whose Line Is It Anyway? But he was my co-star, and he held my hand through all of this and kind of watched it all going. And it was really an amazing story. And at the end of the very last performance, the line that was feeding my arm crimped, and I knew I was going to have to either get it replaced or whatever. And I just thought, you know what? I'm gaining weight. I don't have any diarrhea. I'm eating regularly. And I pulled it out of my arm. I wrapped the bandage. We went down to the show. We did the show that night. And at the curtain call, and the show was about me having AIDS. And at the curtain call, I took the thing off my arm and I said to everybody, I'm going to live. Greatest bow in the world. Yeah, absolutely. Greatest curtain call ever. And everybody around you the family, the friends, everybody was like, it had to be an extraordinary time for you, huh?
A second
It,
lease on life,
it
new
was
lease on life.
a complete miracle. And from that point, I started calling my life living in the bonus round.
Yes, which I think is terrific. Right, right.
Because if you think about it, I had a whole life. I created my musical. I did something that I always dreamed of doing, and I starred in my own musical. And now all of a sudden I had a whole life ahead of me. And I thought, you know what? This is the extra part.
Mhm.
This is the extra part. This is living in the bonus round. So whatever happens from here is just extra icing on the cake.
Icing on the cake. Exactly. Right. So you've kept your spirits up, and you're still on medicine even today.
Yeah.
Some people might not realize that a lot of people are on the continual medicines to keep things going, right? The dependency on that medicine is really important, isn't it?
It is. I'm on a triple cocktail of those medications. They've also messed up my thyroid, give me diabetes. It's not an easy road. I really have to battle every single day still just to maintain good health. And I do that through a combination of music and exercise and diet and just staying as alive and as present and as healthful as I possibly can.
Do you meditate? Do you pray? Do you have alone time with yourself too?
In the music, I use the music for that. In the early morning, I get up about 3 a.m. So I have a nice quiet time, especially
Yeah.
in New York City. I have a nice quiet time and I sit at my keyboard or I just meditate. I don't formally meditate, but I use that time as a meditation to write lyrics, to write new songs. And I'm always writing new songs, always writing new material. And it just helps center me because I know the healing is in the music. And so if I just keep focusing on that, it's always going to be good.
You are also still recovering from a little bit of a tumble in Manhattan there on the ice, huh?
Yes, this arm. You can tell I'm sloped down.
A
I have
little
to
bit
hold
there. Yeah.
my arm up.
What are you doing
I,
for that?
well, I fell on the ice and I fractured the top of this arm and had to have a what they call a reverse shoulder replacement. And it's taken me like 2 years, almost 3 years of just physical. I pull weights, bands, I exercise, and the whole point is to try to get my arm back functioning. The particular replacement that I have is never going to bring me back to normal. So I'm having to use muscles that don't like working doing this. Like I don't have a, what do you call it? A rotator cuff anymore.
Right.
So it was difficult for me to play the piano for a long time because this arm just simply wouldn't go out to get to the higher notes. And if I did, they were incorrect. And I couldn't do this action. I couldn't brush my teeth. I couldn't make my arm go up and down. So that's what I've been doing. I've been focusing on trying to get my arm back, try to get my music back. I picked up guitar, started learning guitar because it's easier to play than piano. I started watching YouTube so that I could learn how to play guitar. And I think the point is to never give up. There's always something new to learn, something new to figure out, something new to create. And I believe that's where health, anybody who's a creative person, and I think everybody can be creative. That's really where you can be, where you could create your own health.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the mind, it's in the body, it's in your actions.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell us more about the musical healing and those measurable effects. I know you mentioned that it's the same way with that first musical, the last session as well. Musical therapy, has actually had such a measurable healing effect on your body, Steve, in such a beautiful way.
Singing, creating, and playing, you have to use your whole body. So when I'm writing, I'm bringing up emotions from deep inside. And then when I'm singing all those emotions that coming up from inside. And then playing the music, I can feel it. Whenever I have to go a long time without playing or singing, I can tell. I can feel myself sink down. I can feel it all start to reverse itself. And so get back on the wheel, and keep going. I believe that whether you're in dance or you're in art or you're in cooking or whether you're, whatever art that you can perform that lifts your spirit, they've shown scientifically that we affect ourselves all the way down to the molecular level. And so when we create and we do something passionate and the thing that we love, it reaches us on that fundamental level, and it raises us up holistically.
Yes. Releases those feel-good hormones, the endorphins, and so much more. It reduces inflammation, and which is a culprit, and cortisol and all of that. And that's a beautiful thing. So for those who weren't familiar with the last session, tell us about that musical.
Oh, sure. As I said, Jimmy saw, I was sitting in the little recording studio, little home studio, and Jim said, I saw the whole play in my head. He went home and he made a drawing of the set. And he said, I'm going to set it here. Now, what he did was he took characters that were part of my life and he put them into a recording studio setting. And he made my character, who he called Gideon, as an ex-gospel singer, which I came from the gospel world, Texas. My father was a Baptist minister. My mother's a nurse and Sunday school teacher. And we took that background and made him a character who moved from gospel into pop music. And he wants to record one last album. And so he gathers all of his old band members together to make this one last album. Now, it sounds like a dreary thing, but actually Jim writes very funny. So what you have is this combination of these very serious songs and these characters who don't get along. And poor Gideon, here he is, sick as a dog, trying to record his album, and everything is going wrong in the studio because nobody gets along. So that's the comedy of the situation, is him trying to get to the end of the night with this horrible story while everyone is, doing everything they can to keep it from happening. And a year after we did that first 3-week workshop in Los Angeles, a year later, we were in New York. Thanks again to SB Music, my music publishers, and Carl White and Michael Alden and Jamie Chesa, and they came together, and these were just a scrappy young producers who had never really done anything on their own before. And we put this show up off Broadway, and the next thing you know, we were getting nominated for Best Musical Awards, up next to Lion King, by the way. And The Circle of Love. And we were just in this little theater by ourselves, and Rent was the big musical at the time. Oh yeah. So the kids would wait in line for Rent, and then they would race over to our theater and see if they could get in and see our show. So the Rent heads in the last session, the sessionauts, would all sort of became a single little family inside the family. But it was amazing to be in New York City. And I'll never forget when the truck pulled up in front of the theater. These guys, the truck rolls up, guy throws a big bundle of things onto the sidewalk, and I go over and I look and there are the playbills in full color with the name of our show. And I thought, I never dreamed that this could happen. For one thing, I grew up in a little Baptist church in Southern Texas. So I didn't really know. Big difference between the two. I didn't know musical theater. I'd never seen a musical. I didn't really know. I didn't even know Broadway was a place. I thought Broadway meant old movies like, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I really had no concept of what a musical was. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why our show worked and why it was so unusual is because these songs were not written as theater. They were written as real life healing drama coming out of my own experience. Yeah. And it was a little bit ahead of its time in terms of the style of music that it was writing. And so I'm very proud of how the last session landed in New York. And then we were all over the country. We went to LA and Chicago and Dallas and everywhere we went, we won awards. I think in Omaha, Nebraska. Imagine Omaha, Nebraska, and here's a gay play, with AIDS and everything else. And I think we won 12 out of 12 awards. Every actor got the award. The score got the award. The playwright, everything. It was really a fantastic experience. Quite amazing. And then from there, I was started to get invited to universities and colleges, and part of it was because of that New York Times article about the diary. The diary is a historical document, And one of the teachers at Harvard University at the School of Public Health, Jarvis Chen, incorporated it as part of the study materials for the Harvard School of Public Health. And I was invited there, and I got to do a concert. I got to appear on a panel. And I'll never forget some of the students who were from all over the world. They knew who I was. I was like, really?
Sure.
And they were saying, yeah, because I was down in Costa Rica, and I was trying to figure out how to treat my patients. And your diary was the only thing we had going on of somebody who was actually living with the disease and going through all the stuff. And we were watching what you were trying. We were listening to your emotional state. And it was helping us really deal with our patients, both on a medical level and on a psychological level. And I'll never forget, I wrote in the diary one time where I had gotten really sick. This is before, when I was still really sick. And my doctor said, well, why don't we try this or try that? And I yelled at him and I screamed. I said something like, well, just do your worst. Nothing's working anyway. Who cares? And I wrote that in my diary, how horrible I was to my doctor. And I was screaming at everybody. I was screaming at like everyone because I was so frustrated. And I got one of the greatest emails ever from a lady in Seattle. And she said, that's my cat, by the way. I don't know if you can hear.
Oh, they love pets, cats, children, and food. So if the cat ends up jumping up on your lap or the keyboard, they're very happy.
No, he wants in the room, and then when he's in the room, he wants out of the room. So it's like one of those.
Can't please.
But this lady wrote, and she said, my husband has AIDS, and he's been yelling at me, and I've been taking care of him and changing his bedpans and feeding him and doing all of this stuff, and he just is so abusive to me, and he throws things at me, and I thought everything I was doing was wrong.
Your brother's watching, Corky.
Hi, Corky.
Yeah.
And he said,
glad that you're still alive. That's beautiful, huh?
That's the first time he's ever said that.
Live on the Jim Masters Show, another worldwide exclusive happens on the Jim Masters Show. It always happens on the show, a worldwide exclusive. Corky, thank you. Corky actually contacted me and said that that was going to be said. No, it's a beautiful thing. You want to print that out, huh? Gee.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Younger brother, older brother?
He's a younger brother. I have 3 younger brothers.
In any others in the family in music, or just
my mother? My mother. She was a pianist and a singer in our church, and so she kind of was the one who led me to the piano. Made me take lessons when I was 7 years old, which I hated. I lasted for 3 years and then I quit.
Yeah.
And then we moved to a very small church in Southern California, and they didn't have a piano player. And so at the age of 10, I started playing the piano for our church. And I think that's what kept me going in music.
Yeah.
Was I hated to practice. I didn't like lessons. I was very, a terrible student. But playing for church started to teach me how to play music. And I kept on until the day I saw Paul McCartney play Hey Jude on Ed Sullivan. And I went, okay, that's what I want to do.
Well, who's some of the people that have inspired you along the way that you looked up to, that you really gravitated towards in music and elsewhere over the years?
The Beatles, of course, that's almost goes without saying for people of my generation. I love the fact that they always wrote in different styles of music. And I've always been a very eclectic songwriter. I don't think 2 of my songs sound the same. Neil Young was also my favorite artist when I was in high school, and I would study his albums. He had all the lyrics written out on all of his albums, and I would just study the way he put words together and what songs looked like on a page. And when I was 19, I bought an Elton John album, and it had all the lyrics, and I thought, I'm going to try something. I was in college by then. I'm going to put I put all the lyrics on the piano. And I thought, I'm going to write, because I knew how the way he writes music is he has a lyricist, Bernie Taupin, who would give him the words, and then he would write the music, right?
Right.
So I thought, I'm going to be Elton John. So I put all Bernie Taupin's lyrics up, and I wrote all different music to all of the songs, and then I listened to the album. So it gave me experience in song structure.
Right.
And later on, I worked for the National Academy of Songwriters out in Los Angeles. And part of my job was educating young songwriters and teaching them how to get into the business. And I read some books and some advice from other songwriters, and they said that's the one thing that they always advised young songwriters is to get a bunch of lyrics of songs you don't know and just write new music to it.
That's
and
it.
It just imprints in your brain what a song looks and feels like, how it's structured, what a chorus does, what a verse does.
Speaking of that, do you want to share a song with us live right now, and then we'll come back and continue the conversation?
I'll do that. In fact, I'll do the first song, the one that I call this the song that saved my life. After those, now my cat's going to drive me crazy back here.
They're all commenting about the cat. They're hoping the cat jumps on your lap.
Well, usually he'll be right back here on the bed, but apparently he's decided to be recalcitrant.
This is his big moment for his 15 minutes of fame on the show.
Leo the cat.
Leo the cat.
So this was the first song that I wrote after that long time of being in bed, not being able to walk, not being able to set up. And I took a big breath and I tried to remember the moment when I went into the hospital. And this was the song that saved my life, and it became the centerpiece of the last session. It's called Connected. I saw a neon sign that said emergency. I barely even know what happened next. Collapsing in a doorway and then down the hall, connected to a meter. We should all be connected to a meter. A very nice young man with 3 rings in each ear said we don't lose that many patients in a year. He rolled me to a lonely room with a light beneath the bed, connected to a bottle. We should all be connected to a bottle. And every night at 1 a.m., the angel of the nighttime would wake me up and give me something good, and then give me something bad. All day long I'd channel surf, that's all that I could do. I couldn't read a book or walk around. You know you've hit the bottom when you're glad to be connected to a TV. We should all be connected to a TV. I dreamed I was on happy days, that I was playing Richie, with Potsy begging Richie not to die, 'cause they'd never let Richie die. Friends would come around and bring me little things and say how much they needed me to live. They told me I wouldn't make it 'cause they said we were connected to each other. We should all be connected to each other. Now someday, if I lose this fight to carry on, please send me someplace gently out to sea. Then listen as I whisper softly in your ear, connected to each other. We will always be connected to each other.
Really beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Bravo. I mean, that really is very touching. And that can apply to even this year, what people are going through, all of the things that people are going through this year, where we're having to be socially distant and we can't hug and we can't visit each other and we
Oh,
can't, you know what I mean? It's affecting millions of people worldwide. And that song, has that song taken on a life of its own? I mean, it's really beautiful. And it's a song that I think, more and more people hearing that as we go through the things in life that we have to go through can be inspired by a song like that.
well, it never really got famous. Our producers never really had a whole lot of money. So among a certain level of people who found the show, who went out of the way to find the show, who found my diary, they love that song. And it's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. I've put it up everywhere for people if they want to. It's very, it's very honest. It's very, very honest. I would not be alive if I didn't have my friends and my family and my doctors, my caregivers, all of those people together made me who I am today. And I simply would not exist without them. And so our connectedness, I mean, you call it love at ease, but it's our connections that keep us alive and that make us human and that give us that health.
That's right. That's right.
And thank you. I appreciate all of the people.
Yeah, wonderful, moving song. Bernadette is in tears. We all need connections. Kathleen claps. Anne, you're amazing, beautiful. Merlin in Canada claps and hearts and praying hands as well. And bravo from Marsha Watson. And beautiful from Juanita watching in South Africa. Ralph says, blessings indeed. Kathy Short, hearts and claps. Kathleen says, well said.
But you're right. It's a song that is about AIDS, but it's not.
Right.
You can say, well, it's about my particular journey, but everyone I played that song to. I mean, all the way across the board, from my most critical songwriter friends that I knew in Los Angeles, and I mean big hit songwriter friends, every single one of them, as soon as I would get into that song, it would just stop the room. And everyone would just go. In fact, one of my biggest fans was a guy named Nick Vinay, who discovered the Beach Boys. I don't know if you know his name, but he was the head of Capitol Records, and he discovered the Beach Boys and Linda Ronstadt. He came on board with the last session after hearing that song, and became my musical mentor for a little while. And then he died of stomach cancer. I didn't realize he was going through that at the time. And finally he confessed to me, and he said, you've said it all. You've said it all. This is it. No one can say another word about this. You've said it all. And I thought that's the highest compliment you could possibly get paid, especially from someone who is that well-known and that, has that kind of reputation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As you mentioned, which I really like, is that you toured hospitals and colleges and universities as well. What was that like?
Really amazing. I'm gonna let my cat out. No, never mind. He can howl all he wants.
He might jump on your lap. They would love it.
He's not a lap cat. That's the one thing he doesn't do. He doesn't jump on my lap. I wish he would. Then I could sit here and caress him.
Yeah. Independent spirit he has.
One of the nicest things that ever happened was I was invited to sing and do a presentation at Stanford University, and they had a lecture series that was named after Jonathan. I can't remember the last name of the guy, but it was a lecture series by a professor who had recently died, and he had cancer, and he kept track of his progress on video and had lectured all of the doctors and the new doctors and the nurses and the social workers. And he kept telling them,
saw that. Yeah.
He kept telling them in his lectures, don't treat patients like I don't know if in a hospital room, if it's room 7, the bed next to the door is called 7A, and the bed after that is 7B. And I don't know if I got it from him or if I made it up, but in the middle of this concert that I gave in his name, I said, everybody, I am not patient 7A. I have
Right.
a name. My name is Steve. And I'll never forget, there was a moment when I was in the hospital that first time. I mentioned in the song Connected how at 1 a.m. an angel would come in. It was actually, I'm talking about a nurse. A nurse would come in and they would have to give me an antibiotic. They would wake me up. They would feed me some cookies because this thing was really hard on your kidneys. And they would give me this antibiotic and it would just made me miserable. I would vomit. I would get really sick and nauseous. And I remember this nurse came in one night and she gave it to me and she was on her way out the door. And she could see I was in a really miserable position. And she said, "You know what? You're our favorite patient." And I could just picture them all at the nurse's station, all discussing all the patients. Yeah, now he's our favorite. And for some reason, a flood of endorphins, whatever it was, a flood of stuff came into my body that just lifted me up in a way I can't even describe. And I thought, now that is a nurse who's listening to the people that she's taking care of. It's not just here, go in, take the medicine and walk out the door. And I know sometimes nurses can be and doctors can have a lot of patience and it can be very overwhelming for them, but to be seen and to be noticed, that was as much a part of my healing as anything else was. And so I sat in front of those doctoral students at Stanford and I said, "Now listen, my name is Steve. I am not patient 1A."
Right. That's it. That's it.
And I would say to them, the reason I'm alive is because somebody actually noticed that I was there. They healed me out of my misery.
Mm-hmm.
And to be noticed and to be seen.
Yeah.
What a huge difference that made for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very, very true. I had a similar experience with an aunt that was passing, and it was bone cancer, which is a very rough one too. And I don't know why, probably do, just it's my way, my personality, was compelled as we would go to the cancer ward to continually visit her every day. She was actually in another state, and I several times a week would drive to the other state, and sometimes even stayed in the room with her overnight, and then would get in the car and drive back, to the TV studio or the radio station, wherever it had to be. But I brought in these photos of her on Christmas Day and other wonderful times where, she was with loving family, or it was a joyous celebration or birthday, or, and she looked spectacular. Because I remember her saying she doesn't feel beautiful anymore.
Oh,
As the cancer was taking hold. And we said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "You're one of the most beautiful people inside and out. You've touched so many lives." And she was a very religious person and very like a matriarchal and all of those things. Never really never did anything against people. Never, gold star halo type of human being.
wow.
But had this happen to her at an early age of 69. So I brought in these photos of her with me as a kid, and with, the family and the relatives, and again, Christmas Day and all of these times. And I felt compelled to show these to the nurses that were caring for her. So they stopped as they were bringing different, the medicine or whatever, or morphine at that point. And I said, "I just want to show you my aunt, I need you to know who she is, that she isn't patient in room 4O or whatever.
Right.
She is this person behind the name, behind the chart, behind everything you're doing.
A whole life,
There's
life
a whole
is lying there.
bunch, all these people you see visiting, and there's a story to tell. And I've always done this. I've done about 6, 7 eulogies in my life for people.
Wow.
I actually have people, even older relatives putting in orders now saying, I like the way you did that for Uncle so-and-so. Can I put an order in that you'll do my eulogy and my tribute video and all this? I'm like, wait a minute, let's not talk about that. You're going to live till 110, when the time comes or whatever. But they're putting their orders in already, which is funny. But the two of the nurses came up and they said, thank you. Thank you so very, very much. And I said, thank me. They said, this is not an easy job, what we do.
Right.
And every day we're coming in these different rooms. We're in a cancer ward on top of it. And we see all different ages and all different backgrounds and people coming and going. And we have things we have to do, and we have protocol, and we have regimen and all of these formatics. But we don't always get a chance, sometimes by the time they're here, or they start slipping quickly by the time they're here, to really know who they are, other than the person in room,
right,
4B or whatever.
The sick lady who needs this medication.
That's it. Now at 9 a.m. you got to do this, and
Right.
then do this, change the sheets. It's at 10 a.m. So I brought in those pictures. The nurses said, thank you so very, very much. What a beautiful person. We can see all the love in these photos. We can see really an understanding of who this person is and what she means to the family.
Right.
And it gives us a totally different perspective on this soul that's right here in the bed, which is extraordinary. And the nurses were actually thanking me for bringing these photos in, to just showing them, handing them, here's her then, and here's her then, and here's her then.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And it turned out that at that time, my sister and my cousin and I happened to be in the room with her. We stayed late. Some of the other family went back home, but the three of us just stayed late in the room with her. And a nurse had come in, and the nurse said, we need to change the sheets. So we step out, we hear the changing of the sheets, and we hear, pain and moaning because they're having to move her, because at that point, it was getting rough. And really, really interesting, because when we heard some of that moan, our instincts was to go back into that room. So we went going into the room, and she was elevated. She had lifted herself up, opened up her eyes as wide as they can possibly open, looked directly at and through us, and then laid back down. And that was that.
Wow.
Quite amazing, huh?
Wow.
And we still have that image there, that we were the last, that she saw in her life, was the three of us there with her, taking that final look.
One of the most touching concerts that I was able to do several times is at a hospice.
Oh, hospice is amazing.
And
they're incredible people.
To sing for hospice workers who face death every single day and deal with families, and to be able to be a patient with songs about healing, and say, as a patient, I just want to tell you, thank you for putting your time in. I know my mother, as I told you, was a registered nurse. My father was a pastor. Both of them, their whole life mission was to take care of other people, including us. Mm-hmm. And they did a spectacular job of it. But I could see my mom sometimes would come home, and I would see her in the chair, and sometimes she'd be weeping a little bit. And she would say, well, Mrs. So-and-so, I was treating this patient, Mrs. So-and-so, and she passed today. And I could just tell that every one of those deaths, it's like that song by Jimmy Webb. Every life puts a mark on you, mm-hmm. of some kind. And so to be able to, I felt honored to be able to sing for them, and to mm-hmm. thank them, and to enforce what they were doing. And they would write me these letters and say, thank you. Sometimes I feel like they don't even know I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah. We had an uncle that had needed the care of hospice because he wanted to pass, it was cancer as well. He wanted to pass in the home. He didn't want to their house. He didn't want to in the hospital. So hospice came and brought in a special bed, and they put it in. It's a huge bed. They put it in the dining room, had to move the dining room chairs and tables and everything back because that was the huge room they could fit that huge bed in. And after they were there every time and checking in and making sure everything was okay and all of his needs were tended to. And this is hospice. And after he did pass, the folks from hospice that had been coming to their house to, do what they had to do, they continued constantly for a year plus checking in on our aunt to make sure she was okay, that she was dealing with the loss okay. They were in their 80s and upper 80s, and to make sure that, a lot of times the job is done, in the regular traditional method, the job is done and that's it. They wanted to make sure there was a whole thing that they did for a year plus after to make sure. And we actually did go to I remember going with her and with family to this hospice event that they had for people who had lost a loved one. And they gave these little pins, heart pins.
That's beautiful.
It's a whole thing that they do. And I have friends that work in hospice, and I mentioned possibly volunteering, I tend to be a caretaker type anyway. And they said, you'd be so, you have this sort of ministerial way about you, Jim. You would be so phenomenal for this. You just have to, like you said, you have to remember that when you go in, when you go see Gladys tomorrow, when you go in, the bed may be empty. And that's constant. That's a constant flow. So you just have to make sure that you're good with that, because
because in hospice, you're really not, you're taking care of the patient, but you're really taking care of the family. It's the family that comes in there and surrounds it. I remember a friend of mine, Sarah, in Columbus, Ohio, telling me about work. She works in hospice, and she was a social worker, and she went to this home where this lady was dying, and the lady was upstairs, all the family was downstairs, and they were all sad and lonely, and the body and the patient was upstairs. So she kind of teased them and led them up the stairs to where they were all around the bed, and then she said, "Tell me stories about her."
Mm-hmm.
And they all started to tell stories about the lady. And they were laughing, and they started to come to life, and the whole family started to come to life. And she, by that simple act of watching and caring, she performed a wonderful act of healing just with those people.
Just think about the yeoman's work that people are doing right now with COVID. The frontline workers, the nurses, the doctor. I have several nurses in the family, and they're there on the front lines, and the stories that they tell are amazing. And then the stories where, somebody has it and they're on a ventilator and they're not doing so well, and the family can't even go in to say, they can't go in to show the pictures.
Right.
They can't go in to have, there's no hospice that can come in and care and comfort. They're just passing in a hospital room alone. Extraordinary what life brings our way sometimes. That's why you have to have good conversations, and you have to share and lift people up. Good music as well. And speaking of that, do you want to share another song with us?
Sure.
Something.
Pardon me. Got gunk in my throat.
Choked up. It's a good conversation.
Just the other day, just a few weeks ago, I went into a bagel shop down the street here on 9th Avenue, and we were all socially distancing and waiting in line and trying to get through. And I noticed a person who came in behind me was wearing hospital blues, or whatever you call it, what a doctor would wear. And just as I got to the front, I said, and I noticed he ordered like a little sandwich, a little breakfast sandwich or something. And I told the cashier, I want to pay for his, whatever he's getting, I'm paying for it. And he sort of
He's not
I could
used to
tell his
that.
eyes were ringed,
Yeah.
I could tell he's very tired. And he said, "No, you don't have to do it. You have to do that." And I said, "No, that's okay. No, let me just buy you a breakfast. Come on." And I saw him later out on the sidewalk just down the street, just a few minutes later. And I said, well, I told him about my mom being a nurse and how much I cared about caregivers. And I said, so are you at the beginning of a long day or at the end of a long night? He said, I've been working for 3 days straight.
Mm.
And I would just wanted to go home and I wanted to eat, but I didn't want to cook. And I just needed to go home and just fall. He said, I can't tell you, how much it meant to me that, just to have this little sandwich. That was a really, really nice thing that you did. And I thought, what a simple act. I got a guy a sandwich.
Yeah, that's
and what a simple act.
yeah.
I'll do this one here. This was there were 4 songs that I wrote right at the very beginning of the last session, my therapy songs.
Yeah. Thank God for them. Yeah.
So this is my love song to the caregiver. Now that we're on that, since we're talking about that, and I remembered I would wake up in the morning, as I do, in the early morning hours, and I was fiddling around, writing some lyrics, and I heard Jimmy in the other room asleep, but I don't know, maybe he was turning over, made a noise or something, and I suddenly thought to myself, I know how bad I'm feeling, but what must it feel like to watch somebody you love dying right in front of your very eyes? Which one would you rather be? The person who's dying or the person who's watching someone you love die? And immediately I said to myself, I'd rather be the sick one. I can't imagine the torture of being the one who watches. And so this song came out of that. It's called Going It Alone. Though you've been a rock for me to stand on, beside me every moment of the fight, even though you make it so much better when I go to sleep at night. The fight that I am fighting is my own, and it feels as though I'm going it alone. Now and then my friends take me to dinner and tell me how they're with me all the way. They lean across the table and they say they're thinking of me. Then they take the bill so I don't have to pay. And they tell me they're so proud of how I've grown. And they say they know I'm going it alone. But is it such a lonely battle? Have I been so wrapped up in myself? What about what you've been through as well? Do you lie awake and worry, never falling back to sleep? Are you going through some private kind of hell? Do you also feel you're out there on your own? Do you feel as though you're going it alone? Do you lie awake and worry, never falling back to sleep? Have I put you through some private kind of hell? I'd have to read your mind to even tell. Just before I turn to go to sleep, I brush your little hair back from your eye. Suddenly the loneliness I felt just melts away, and I smile because I know the reason why. Can we really say we're out there on our own? Can we really say we're out there on our own? When together we've been going it alone. When together we've been going it alone.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
What comes to mind as you're singing that and you're playing that? A lot of people are expressing their thoughts, beautiful thoughts. How about you? What do you think of as you're singing that?
Oh,
Yeah. Do we have a couple hours, right?
what's the next line?
Yeah, next question.
Have I got the right chord? You know what happens to me sometimes is I really feel songs when I sing them. I can't like just halfway sing a song. And so many of the times I have done a concert and I've gotten in the middle of just doing it and I look down, it's the next verse and I go, what key am I playing in?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where am I? So I go off. Oh, thank you. Neil Young, am I? Yes, thank you. I love Neil Young. So yeah, but I think of Jim. I think of every caregiver that I've ever met. What a great thing to be able to have sung for doctors and students and caregivers and social workers and nurses and doctors. They're all just it's a life that is so complex because of how emotional. First of all, somebody's life is in your hands. What a burden that is.
Mm.
And then the healing part, the medication is just part of it. So it's the loving and the caring of the person themselves, and then the family. I mean, I can't. Every time I sing that song, I sang for a hospice in Los Angeles, an AIDS hospice, and I was in this. I have a whole song about it, which I won't do because it's too long. But there was an atrium in the middle, and all the rooms were lined up outside the atrium. So when I sat down to sing my concert, there was nobody there. I was singing to an empty room because all the doors were open to the rooms of the people who were sick.
Mm-hmm.
So I did this whole concert. There was a few nurses over there, and I was getting up to my big climax and finishing, and I thought, this is it. And the nurse came up to me right when I finished, and she said, "I want to thank you so much." And I said, "Why?" She said, "They're all asleep."
Yeah.
And I realized what a beautiful gift to give these people who are
Yes.
suffering, is to give them music that will put them to sleep, and also give the nurses a break.
Yes.
She was so happy they were all asleep. Now she could just, deal with paperwork or whatever they had to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kathleen just lost her mother a couple of weeks ago to cancer in New York. She says the home care my mom got during her last days was amazing. They were so supportive.
Oh, wonderful.
Which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Heartfelt song, heartfelt and relatable. I have a friend, actually, we have a longtime family friend who just lost her husband to early onset dementia. And she was caring for him while also working full time in public relations and also caring for her artistic grandson, and who's homeschooled, and she would do homework lessons with him and everything at night. He's now 17, and another son who has mild schizophrenia. So, and she's the main caretaker of all, and of her husband.
Oh my God.
Who just passed last month. So, I tell people when they're always complaining and being negative and getting upset about tiny little nonsensical things.
Right.
Oh, my latte. They forgot the whipped cream on my $55 latte.
Adele lost too much weight.
Yeah. What's the Kardashians wearing today? I say, you know what? Sit down. Let's talk. Put a pot of coffee on. You know
Right.
what? You know what can really be happening? Look at the person that's wheeling in the wheelchair in the airport by themselves. You know what I mean? Sometimes we get hung up on all the idiosyncrasies and just the nonsensical things of life. And I've always been very aware of the blessings and the joys, and the fact that, like you say, this is a wonderful time that we're in. We're all living on borrowed time. This is time that's been given to us. It's a gift that's been given to us, and it's what we do with it that really counts. We have, like people say, you have the birth date and you have the end date. It's that dash in the middle, what we do with the dash between the birth date and the date of passing.
Right.
That really counts. And I think a lot of people forget that. They forget that, and that not everybody's having a perfect day and a perfect life and a perfect existence. So when you're complaining about that whipped cream not being on your $55 latte that you sat in a Starbucks parking lot for 4 hours for.
I said I wanted a heart on my, top of my coffee.
Yeah, I wanted the heart of my coffee. I'm suing. I'm calling my lawyer. You've ruined my entire life. I was actually in an airport once where a woman was doing that. I was coming from a television shoot, coming from California, and the layover city was Minneapolis. And as we were getting ready to land, before we changed planes to come back east, there was a horrific storm, and we were flying in the beginnings of it. We landed safely. We got into the airport, but you could see through the airport windows that it was like tornadic. It was black and windy and rainy, and it was the lightning was fierce. So we're sitting in I think it was Delta. We're sitting in the Delta waiting area. We understood that they couldn't board us yet because the other plane hadn't even come in yet, the one that we were going to take to go east. So everybody's quiet. They're getting food at the concessionaire area, and they're just relaxing, reading papers. You look out the window and it's the Wizard of Oz tornado out there. Nobody wants to go anywhere. So they made an announcement that they're going to, for now, they're grounding all planes. They're not letting any planes come in or any planes depart the airport in Minneapolis because of the horrific weather that's right outside the airport.
Sure.
So I'm like, hey, smart move, great choice, safety over speed, good. Well, this one woman was pacing, and she went right up to that Delta counter, who, and started inquiring, the poor woman behind the counter who probably hears all these kinds of things all day long from people.
Course.
The woman starts like getting madder. Well, where's the plane? Well, where's I can't be late tonight. I have to be on this plane. They're like, excuse me, madam, the airport traffic control experts just said that they're closing things just for now because of the storm. Well, I don't care. I've paid good money for this Delta flight. I've paid money. I expect to be on this plane. You people, you're ruining my life. She's pointing at her. She's saying, you're ruining my life. How dare this woman, who has nothing to do with this decision made or anything to do with any of this,
right?
How this woman is ruining that woman's life. So she's like kicking the stand. She's dropping her luggage. She's pacing. She dissolved into a 5-year-old brat. So I'm sitting there, and my feet are starting to tingle. The New Yorker in me is starting to say, "Okay, do we just sit here, or do we say, Madam, please sit down?" So I'm not saying anything. But this other guy that looks like he came out of the WWF, he got up quietly and just walked over to her, and he said, is there an issue? They ruined my day. They're ruining my life. This woman's not helping me. This woman's not putting me on the plane. This is ridiculous. I'm going to sue all of you. I'm going to go on and I'm going to badmouth you. I'm going to type on Yelp. You're awful and you ruin things and you wouldn't help me. Meanwhile, everybody else, all of us, we're all sitting, rolling our eyes like, will this woman please just knock it off? So the guy just looks at her and has said, do you want to rephrase that? And the woman said, again, madam, it's not a decision that I made. It's a decision that the traffic controllers made for the
Right.
safety of all of us. No planes are leaving. No planes are coming in. So it's nothing I'm doing. And it's a good decision. So when the guy said, "Madam, I think you should sit down," she looked at him. He looked at her. And then she didn't sit down. She took her luggage that she was rolling and she stomped out and she just disappeared. And as she disappeared, everybody
applauded.
the whole area, the woman behind the counter didn't, but she was smiling. But everybody else was applauding.
And I bet I bet the counter lady laid up all night worrying about that Yelp review.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like the little crazy idiosyncrasies in life are so nutty that you can't, get off on things like that, because there's reasons for everything and you just have to go with it. And if this year that we've all dealt with has not been a test of all of that,
right,
I don't know what would be a test of all that, everything that we've been experiencing and seeing. So, probably what they should have done is just turned on some of your music and made it louder through that whole area, and that would have just calmed her down.
If only I was get famous. Somebody make me famous and make my music. I don't care if I'm famous. I want my music to be famous.
Even with the WWF guy there, he got up and he just looked, and with his tattoos and everything, and I don't think I want to mess with that guy. That's funny. We got some comments coming in here. We got a lot of great comments coming in here. Jennifer said, "Yeah, you wouldn't have been that calm with that crazy lady. You probably would have told her to take a hike." Thanks, Tess. Yeah. Mom was 1 year ago. Dad was 30 years ago. They watch over us. Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Sweet.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Uncle Steve.
That's my nephew.
John Shack. That's cool. Big hugs to all of us. Christine's father transitioned 1 year ago, so all is still raw and relatable. And talking about it is a good thing too. Yes. Humor is appreciated right now. I like to make others smile. That's how I deal with my own troubles.
Well, humor and laughing, that's the ultimate healing.
Yes.
Music. That's why I always try to, even in my serious songs, I put a little bit of humor in the songs.
Yes. Right. To me, I always look for the line. I always look for the humor. I always look for whatever, can lift people up. Because I also think that as you lift others, you're lifting yourself as well. We all benefit from it all. Absolutely. Absolutely. We have some wonderful photos here. Thanks, Christopher. Appreciate that. We have some wonderful some photos here that have stories attached to them. Let's talk about, let's see. I like this one here, the two of you guys.
Oh, Broadway Backwards. That's a benefit they do every year. And that's Jim Brochu. That's my husband, my partner. And he got to star in this production of Broadway Backwards. What they do is Broadway Backwards is the benefit for the Actors Equity Fights AIDS. And they give female songs to the male singers and male songs to the female singers. And he got to be on the Palace Theater in New York City, which was his lifelong dream. He's been in theater his whole life. He's a New Yorker. So I'm from Texas and didn't know anything about theater. And he's a New Yorker who grew up in theater backstage. In fact, you should have him as a guest sometime. Talk about stories. He will give you more stories than you can possibly. And he just finished writing a new book. So I'll forward that stuff on.
What's the title of the book?
The book is
On the spot. Wait, what's this book I got behind me here?
Oh, it's called Watching from the Wings. There it is. Watching from the Wings. And he has a whole lot he grew up backstage at all the Broadway theaters with all the stars. So he would hang out in the dressing rooms and my favorite story is him telling about Colonel Sanders having fried chicken with Noel Coward.
Stop talking about me!
Oh, is that the cat? That cat.
Come in and say hello.
Wait, your cat talks, Leo?
Yes.
Talks? Wow. That sounded like the cat.
Yeah, he just finished writing his autobiography with all these stories about all the stars. It's really
he doesn't want to come in, right?
He's a great raconteur. He's not.
He's in his pajamas.
Probably in his pajamas. He's not shy, trust me.
Yeah, that is funny. Here's another cool shot.
That's us on our first I think that was the Laguna Playhouse when we first did the Big Voice God or Merman. After the last session, 7 years after the last session, we wrote a musical together that was an autobiography of our lives. And we even talked about the creation of the last session as part of that. And I have a wonky eye due to a thyroid condition. At the time, my eye was really whacked. It was looking straight up into my skull. So I used to wear an eye patch. And that's one of the shots from the Big Voice God or Merman.
So the eye had turned up, you mean?
It had turned up and was kind of pushing out of the socket.
And you could still see?
No, I mean, I could see the sky.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And when I would be on stage, this eye was looking directly into the stage lights. So eventually I was able to get an operation. It's kind of frozen. This one is kind of frozen. It can look down, but it can't look up. So what they did was they detached it and they rolled the eye down. They rolled it down to where I can see level.
Is that not amazing what they can do?
Yeah.
Is that amazing? Here's another great.
That's one of the albums I made. And I was wearing my eye patch.
Beyond the Light.
Beyond the Light. I did all the graphics myself. I did everything myself.
Did you really?
Yeah. Oh, that's us. Jimmy does lectures on cruise ships. And so for the past 20 years or so, we've been going, now we can't go, of course, because of COVID, but we've been all around the world. And that was, he tells me that was Baja California, I believe. We're just, or Mexico.
Yeah.
And we're just posing. That's about 6 years ago, they did a revival of the last session in London with Darren Day, who is a British star. And it was, that's the cast album. And they did a beautiful job. And like the show came alive all over again. Even though the show is set in 1996, where I was in that time, audiences just went crazy for it. We didn't have to update it or anything. And so they did a beautiful cast album, and it's very, very, it got great reviews and nominations. I love getting nominated for theater awards since I didn't grow up in theater and I don't write theater songs.
Is that amazing how that is?
There's another one of our, see my eye?
Yes.
See my eyes a little bit rolled up. So I had my head bent down to try to make it look normal. We were in Russia. That's St. Petersburg.
I cannot think of the name of the actor who you look like there, but I've seen him a million times. And there's a certain, and the eye actually doing what it's doing makes you look really like that actor. I'll probably think about it later, but there's an actor that you look like incredibly in that photo.
Oh, I don't know who you're thinking of.
What was that experience like, being there?
It was beautiful. We got to go to Russia, and they let us into the what's the name of the there's a museum there in St. Petersburg, and it has Peter the Great had collected all this great art from Europe, including Da Vinci's and like some of the greatest. Every painting looked like an iconic painting, and the windows were open, and I was like, "What are you doing in this museum? The sun is shining in."
The Hermitage?
Like, good Lord.
The Hermitage, right? The Hermitage Museum?
Yeah, the Hermitage. That's it.
Yeah.
I knew it started with an H.
Yeah, that's quite a place. Yeah. I had not been there. A friend of mine was there. Haven't been there. Beautiful place.
You could spend a week in there. The treasures on the walls just...
You remind Jennifer in Allentown, Pennsylvania, of a guy on the TV show MASH. I can't think of his name. Yes, that's who it is. You do look a little bit in that photo.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
You do. In that picture, let's bring that up. You actually do. So were you there? Was it a project or was it just a vacation?
No, it was one of the cruises that Jimmy was lecturing and doing shows. He does a one-man show. He has 2 one-man shows. And so we go on the cruises, and I get to just go along and eat.
You just go along and eat.
I go along and eat, and they allow me, we know this cruise line very well, the Crystal Cruise Lines, and they let me get up in the middle of the night and go and use their pianos. So I wrote a song cycle called New World Waking. I started writing it on one of the ships, and that was based on my playing John Lennon's Imagine piano, which is the story that you referred to earlier.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
And that was a remarkable thing. I've always had this thing about pianos, that they have a very, each individual piano has its own sound. And whenever I write a song, I listen to the best parts of that piano, and generally I'll write a song where the sound is the most beautiful.
Yeah.
So I thought, what is it going to be like to play and sing Imagine on the piano that it was written on?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the sonority is going to be the exact sonority that John Lennon heard when he wrote that. And yes, it was spectacular. The sound of that piano in that song, he found the sweetest spot in that instrument. It was so beautiful to play under that tree for Bill Clayton, as we mentioned earlier, for Gabby and Alex.
Very beautiful.
Son.
Yeah, very touching. So there you are on the left, and there's
Jim.
And there he is. There's
no, that's not me.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. You sort of look a little bit. There is a resemblance. Do you see it? Yeah.
That is so funny.
Resemblance there. Amazing, amazing.
That is so funny.
Now, to have his money would be nice, right?
Yeah, well, I'd like to have his body. That's that's the graphic from the New York production of the last session, the original cast recording.
Yeah, yeah. What were you doing when all of this hit? Were you in the middle of a project, so many people were in the middle of things that were in rehearsals or they were just launching, and then everything came to a stop in March. How about you?
You mean when COVID hit? Well, I've just been in the middle, really, of writing a whole bunch of new songs. I'm in a songwriter group.
Yes.
Called the Jack Hardy Songwriter Exchange. Jack Hardy was a great folk songwriter, and we meet every week. He set up this workshop when he was still alive, and we meet every week, and we have to bring a new song every single week, and then we critique each other to death.
Yeah.
And I mean, and so it makes me a better songwriter because it's not just, oh, you did a nice job, see you next week. It's more like, on that second verse, you could have done a lot better if you did blah, 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 So I like really blunt, honest. No, I hate blunt, honest criticism, but I love it because then I go home after fuming for a few hours and then I go, I could make that a little better. So, so I've been mostly working on my arm to try to get my arm back.
Yeah.
I've been very, very focused on my health and trying to get my arm back so that I can play again.
Right.
You see, I could play a little bit here today, but I can't be fancy. I can't do the kind of playing that I was able to do before, and it's probably not going to be back to normal because of the nature of this particular operation. But at least if I'm functional, the songs will stand out whether I can play them fancy or not.
Absolutely. Tell us about this.
This was our biographical musical, The Big Voice, God or Merman. That's the one we got all these. I love all these nominations and awards. That's Jim. And then I was over there. This is off Broadway in 2007, I think. I forgot what year this was. And
what was it about?
It was about the two of us. Jim, we decided to, what happened was we were, the last session had been a big hit for the Laguna Playhouse out in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And they asked us if we would come back and just do like a night of music as a fundraiser on a summer. It's just a special night. And Jim asked them, well, what do you want us to do? And they, Rick Stein, who was the artistic director, said, well, just get up on the stage and tell some stories about the show and sing a few songs.
Right.
And Jim said, I can't do that. I can't do that. And instead I had actually been writing some songs for an idea for a show that I had in mind. Mm-hmm. And he took those songs, repositioned them, and wrote a whole musical for the two of us. He wrote it in about 2 weeks, I think. and we learned it and got up and performed a brand new musical that night.
Wow.
And talk about a response from the audience. It was amazing. And then a year later, we were off Broadway in New York, and
Must have been pinching yourself then, huh?
Then I got to be on the stage because I didn't play. I didn't play in the last session. When the last session played, I did it for our little workshop in Los Angeles. But when we went to New York, I was not in good enough health to sustain 8 performances a week. I also didn't really have the experience. And they thought, if people are going to think this is a vanity project. And so we got Bob Stillman to play, who's a great Broadway star and actor and musician. And he just elevated the last session to the heights that it became. And so then 7 years later, we wrote the Big Voice God or Merman, and I got to star in it. And so I got to be a Broadway star and an actor.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And then when we did it in Los Angeles, I swear, when we did it in Los Angeles, we did it in this tiny little theater in North Hollywood. We had no money. I mean, like no money. I was sitting on a chair with a phone book under my seat. I was sitting on a phone book. That's our budget. That was our budget. I was sitting on a phone book so that I could sit high enough to be over the keyboard. And we were nominated and won for Best Musical in a Small Theater. And David Hyde Pierce gave us our award. No, Jerry Herman gave us our award.
Jerry Herman, wow.
Jerry Herman, who wrote Hello Dolly. And Hello Dolly was the show that Jim grew up around. And when he was a kid, when he was 13 years old, he was hanging out and working the concession booth at Hello Dolly. This was theoretically the last cruise of our life. This was in 1996, and I documented this in the diary. If you go back to it's bonusround.com, Living in the Bonus Round. We took one last cruise. This was going to be our my goodbye to the world, and we were in Alaska. And you can't really tell from the picture, but I'm very drawn. I'm down 50 pounds from where I am today.
What was it about Alaska why you wanted Alaska to be?
Well, it was the one they offered us. Because again, he was on as a lecturer.
Yeah.
He was on as a lecturer, so it was on their dime. And right. So they said, well, we have this cruise to Alaska. Would you like to come along and to do your lectures? And he does lectures about the celebrities he's known. He knew.
Sure.
We got to know Lucille Ball when we were in Los Angeles.
You played backgammon with her?
I played backgammon with Lucille Ball. She's a shark. She was like, I don't know if you know backgammon, but there's a little die. And if you get toward the end of the game and you're ahead, you flip the die to 2 and then to 4. And if you, that's your challenge, that if you're losing, you can say, okay, I give up. And it's like saying, okay, this is worth 2 games. This is worth 4 games. You're going to owe me $4 rather than $2, however much you're betting, because she always had to bet on the game. It was always $1. And Jimmy had written a play that he thought she would be very good at. And we actually bought a maps to the stars' homes, drove around the city and found her address, stuck the play in her mailbox. And Jimmy had known her choreographer from the Hello Dolly movie, Anna White. And he wrote a little note and said, I heard you like backgammon. Anna White told me. And if you would like to play backgammon, that would be fun. Now, this was after she had already had gone off TV and her health was not great. And so so Jimmy went over there. It's a great story. I have him tell you. You got to have him on and then he'll tell you the whole story. But we got to hang out and play backgammon. And I'll tell you one thing about Lucy that I noticed. Whatever you think about her, she couldn't tell a joke to save a life. She was not funny in person, but she was a great laugh. She loved to laugh. And
she acted funny when she was given.
She was a great actress.
And she in several interviews, she paid homage to the phenomenal writers on I Love Lucy and Here's Lucy, The Lucy Show, and everything else. that she would even say that Desi was really the funny one. He was really just, and Lucy Arnaz is also inherently very funny and
Yes, she
witty.
is.
And she just, I mean, you have a conversation with her and you're laughing because she's just, she's quick witted and she's on spot. But that Lucille Ball, more classically trained, wasn't inherently funny, more of a serious person. But like you say, but if you gave her a script to act funny, to play funny, she would nail that.
She was brilliant, and she showed us. She had the whole thing of all the scripts, and we would look through them, and you could see every single moment. If you look at an I Love Lucy episode, you can see every single moment is written down word by word by word. Lucy looks this way. Lucy does this. When she would go like that, they call that the spider. And so
let's see that again.
See what the spider? When she would go, ooh, ooh. That was the spider.
Just throwing in some levity. Yeah, I know.
She was great fun to be around because she was a great laugh. You know, it wasn't that she wasn't. Right. She just wasn't a naturally. She could be unintentionally funny.
Right.
She just couldn't tell a joke. If she would try to tell Jim a joke and it would fall apart, and Jim would just sit there waiting and say, "Was that the punchline?
Is there a punchline?" Exactly. Yeah.
That's off a balcony of here in New York City, of the apartment we had before this. We were living in Los Angeles, and Jimmy did a show about Zero Mostel.
Oh yeah,
a one-man show about Zero Mostel, which when he gets in makeup, he looks exactly like Zero. He knew Zero, so he wrote a play about Zero Mostel, and they brought us to New York, and this was the apartment they put us in, right on the edge of the river. Now we live a block from there.
Mm.
And so that's me looking up at the sky, I guess.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think about Zero?
Zero Mostel?
On a scale of 1 to 10, 0.
Oh, a 0. That's funny. Okay. You're making a joke. I get it now.
Yes, just a delayed reaction. Kathy says, who'd have thought that about Lucy? Yes, I think that's sort of widely known, right? Sort of about, because in her interviews, even on YouTube, you can see interviews she's done. There's some really cool stuff people are putting on YouTube too, as well. There's these behind the scenes black and white footage of Judy Garland when she was doing her show, the Judy Garland Show on CBS, and it's all the outtakes and the miscues, and when it's the rehearsals,
right.
When they would have to stop tape, or she would forget a word, or a guest would flub a line. And it's stuff that's up on YouTube that's just really, really cool. It's a great place for all those kinds of historic.
Boy, it really is. It's a history. I'm amazed that all that stuff can even be there. I just love it. I love it so much. And we love watching all the old Jack Benny shows.
Oh yeah,
which are every day.
George Burns and Gracie Allen. Yeah, all of them here. And of course, George always watches with us every night. Here he is.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
we watch George and Gracie every single day. Because it's on the Antenna TV, and so we watch it.
Yes, Antenna TV. They did a marathon last weekend with him.
We tape all the shows, and he was a genius too.
Oh yeah.
George Burns was a real genius.
Gilligan is here too.
I love Gilligan.
with love from Bob Denver's wife, Dreama Denver, who actually sent this along.
Oh, no kidding.
She was a guest on the show.
I guess I'll have to get a bobblehead of myself.
And who didn't want to live in the genie bottle and have those powers?
Blink, blink,
blink, blink, blink. So, did you have another song you wanted to share with us, Steve, while you were there?
You know what? I can just do a little bit. I'll just do a little bit of this one because it's a little long.
Is it Jingle Bells?
Yeah, Jingle Bells. It's kind of the theme song. It's the very last song in the show, and my friend John Bettis co-wrote the lyrics with me. John Bettis is a hit songwriter from Nashville. He was living in LA, and when I started writing the songs from last session, I had 4 or 5 of them written, and I went over to his house and I said, John, and again, he's a big songwriter. And I said, I would love to play my songs for you. Now, there's nothing worse for a songwriter than for another songwriter to say, let me play a bunch of songs for you. The worst thing in the world. And I started playing my songs, and he was just entranced by them. And I said, I've got this one song that I haven't finished writing. How would you like to write it with me? And so there's a light holding us together. There's a light holding us all together. You can call it love. You can call it life. But everything changes. It just doesn't matter. There's a word stronger than the silence. There's a word stronger than a silence. You can call it love. You can call it God. But everything changes. Everything changes when you care. When you care. You don't need an explanation when you care. Either you love or you don't. Either you will or you won't. You don't need an explanation when you care. It seems to me life's mystery is written in the language of the heart. We learn to read from what we need, and everything the poetry of living teaches us. It teaches us. Every day it teaches us. Would you care? When you care, you don't need an explanation when you care. Either you love or you don't. Either you will or you won't. You can only make a difference. You can only make a difference when you care. When you care.
That's so very true and so very void in many areas of our society and culture right now. So we need to bring that back. You can only make a difference if you care.
You care.
It's a lot of great comments coming in. Mm-hmm.
And I love the line. If you will or you won't. You don't need an explanation. You don't need an explanation to care. And when you do, it changes your life. It changes the people around you. And so I thank you for all the compliments. I really appreciate it, and I hope you'll roll over to Spotify or however you listen to music. Unity of New York. I've sung at Unity of New York. In fact, I sang that song at Unity of New York.
So then Sean Moniger and David Friedman?
David Friedman, yes.
Yeah, he's a close friend. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Sean is the minister at the Unity Center in Norwalk, Connecticut. Yeah,
I've been able to I'm sort of I've been able to do a lot of concerts in churches and synagogues. My music seems to reach across, even though it has a very gospel feel because that's the music I grew up with. I've been able to sing in synagogues and in churches, Episcopal, Baptist. We sang, Jim and I both did a performance at the Unitarian Universalist National Convention one year. So I love the fact that my music crosses over from theater to church.
Yeah.
Houses of faith. It's really just inspirational is what it is. But I think that when you tell the truth, when you just tell the truth, it doesn't have to be sloppy and icky and sentimental. You can just tell the truth. and to tell the truth of love, and it will cross over to every human being.
Can you please stand on a mountain with a bullhorn and say that out loud right now? Because I think we need that right about now. The world,
Well,
society.
you're spreading it in your show. I've noticed that this is what you do, and I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. More comments coming in here. Juanita, South Africa. Wow, your music is so touching. It actually makes my heart pain. So it's deep, heartfelt.
Thank you, Juanita.
Jennifer Allentown. Steve, I send you forever continuous healing vibes.
Thank you.
Warrior on.
You bet.
Claps from Marcia, and Danilo in San Diego says, I care. Tess says, you make a difference. Claps from Kathleen Walker as well. It's like, it's almost like having your own, there's an audience here giving you a standing ovation. You don't see them necessarily, although you can see their profile photos. So you sort of see them and they see
you. We have a social media telling us that it's very cynical and telling us not to care.
Right.
Nothing is real. There is no truth. There is no love. It's all just, whoever's the loudest, ugliest voice gets all the attention.
That's right.
And we can't let that distract us from being human and from spreading a message of love. And you can do it without being icky or, like I said before, icky or sentimental. Just tell the truth and just love with your heart, and it'll make you a human being. And I fail at it every single day, and I have to relearn that lesson over and over again. So, I'm preaching to myself. Did you go away?
Just wanted to see if you were going to preach to yourself.
Oh.
And
here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it. In that Texas accent. Can you do the Southern accent?
Well, brothers and sisters, I just wanted you to know that the best thing you can do is to love each other, okay?
And nothing wrong with being sentimental every once in a while, especially when you bring out your childhood clown. You got to do what you got to do, right? To put smiles on people's faces. So what are some things that you have coming up, Steve, as we move forward? I know there's no venues aren't open and concert halls and places to perform. All those things are, and we seem to be going a little bit backwards a little bit in terms of what's going on with the pandemic as we get into the colder weather and everything. So nobody has definitive answers on things, but what are some things that you have coming up or that you're working on or that you're doing right now and as we approach December, November?
Well, as I mentioned, I started playing guitar as part of musical therapy. I've always wanted to learn how to play guitar. Oh, okay. You like my Southern accent? I always want to learn how to play guitar.
Guitar.
Because of Neil Young and all those people that I loved growing up. And so I started writing a bunch of guitar songs and doing 4-part gospel harmony. I grew up doing, I don't know if you know about 4-part gospel. It's like the Oak Ridge Boys type of gospel harmony. Bass, baritone, second tenor, first tenor. I grew up singing that kind of music. And in college, my little Baptist college, Jacksonville College in East Texas. So that's really my roots music. So I've been writing all these new songs, very up-tempo, joyful, celebratory songs. And I guess my goal is to put together a little combo maybe and do a concert once all of this is over. I've been making demos. I've been recording demos of all the songs and taking them to my little songwriter group and getting them ripped to shreds and then coming back and rewriting. And so I guess it'll turn into music that I will eventually release. But I'm always creating, always making new music, and it's the joy of my life.
That's it. I mean, when you look at the blessings in your life and you've been through some really dark days and some bright days and joyous days and blessings and really the gamut of emotions and physically the things that have occurred, but yet you've come through this and maintain a sense of inspiration and positivity and hope. And there's people that could be watching us live right now or watching this later on who might be inspired by our conversation tonight here on this show. What continue to be some of those amazing blessings and joys in your life that continue to foster this creativity, but also this understanding and appreciation and love for the greater good and for humanity at large? And I want you to answer that in 2 sentences or less. I'll just step back and listen. Just doing my job. Just doing my job.
Just here, you take it on. You go. You go. I'll tell you what I get inspired by. I get inspired by people who love to inspire others and who care about others. And I meet them in social media. I meet them in real life. I sing in a church choir, here right down the block. And it's part of my own physical therapy too, is just to show up and sing, be the tenor in the back row. Yeah. And one of the things that happened to me when we moved back here to New York, I started volunteering singing in this church choir out in Brooklyn. And Mark Janis, who was the musical director, I put a chain around his neck and said, "I'm not leaving you. Show me how to write choral music." And I ended up writing a whole Episcopal mass, composing this really complex choral thing that I didn't even know what was in a mass when I started writing it. I actually had to look it up I Googled mass. I had to Google what's in a mass, and then I wrote the music to what was in the mass. So for me,
all this time you thought mass was just short for Massachusetts?
Well, as a Baptist, we don't have masses. We don't have that kind of stuff. So going to that church was the first time I just said, "Oh, it's a structured church service." I get it now, and it covers different points of theology and the story of the church. And so, for me, it's always learning. What keeps me alive is always learning something new, learning guitar, learning how to compose something new. I wrote that concert. The New World Waking is a piece that I wrote, again, inspired by John Lennon's piano. As I was sitting there playing Imagine on that piano, that we were surrounded. We were in the front yard of Gabby and Alec Clayton's house under a tree. And there were about 15, 20 people who were in a circle around. And I started to play Imagine from just those first, oh, wait. I could see everybody's tension go down. And I thought, what would it be like to write a song of perfect peace? Just the music and the sound of that song is so beautiful. It just makes everyone be peaceful. The minute those chords start. So I wrote this song cycle called New World Waking, and it has a little plot to it. It's about a songwriter who's decided to find a song of perfect peace. And he goes through the violence in the world, and then violence in his community, violence in the world, and then at the end of it is his answer to a song of perfect peace, which is the song My Thanksgiving Prayer, which you mentioned earlier, that was chosen as a memorial for the soldiers who died in Lebanon, I think was right. In this time of my thanksgiving, as my song begins to rise, listen to the prayer within me, look into my grateful eyes. May I humbly stand before you as I reach out with my hand. May the music bring healing to this cold and troubled land. In this time of my thanksgiving, in this time of my thanksgiving. Anyway, that song goes on like that. But
that was beautiful. Yeah.
And to hear that with a choir singing all those chords, oh, it's just amazing. And so we did that at the Davies Symphony Hall with the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus and a 75-piece orchestra. And then I thought, well, pulling together a choir and an orchestra is a little takes a lot of, I want this thing to play, elsewhere. So we brought it to New York and did it off Broadway in a one-night performance with just a cast of 13. And what I did was I gave everybody in the show one solo or two solos, and I rehearsed everybody individually. And then we got together on the day of the show and staged it. And when each person sang their song, they didn't know what song would be before or after their number. So the cast and the audience experienced the show at the same time, as if they'd never heard it before. And to hear those singers do the songs in performance after hearing what came before, because all my songs are very emotional. They're all storytelling songs. They're all very rich with emotions and all that kind of stuff. And to hear their performance, in the context of the show was what incredible experience. It was amazing to have the audience and the cast experience the show for the first time together.
That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, that's probably really hard to even put that in words in terms of just how the feeling of something like that, putting something magical like that together,
it was even just a practical thing, because if you try to get together a whole bunch of people and rehearse a show, it's expensive. Nobody's got time. You can't get everybody on at the same time to rehearse. And it's just so I thought, I wonder what it'd be like if I just rehearsed everybody individually and never had a group performance. And then on the day of the show, I gave everybody a piece of paper and I said, now there's harmonies and there's sing-alongs. So what you do is it's all call and response. So when somebody sings, like there's a song called "Time to Come Out," time to come out, time to come out, you just echo whatever the solo's doing and just make up the harmonies on your own as we go. So the everybody was making up their own parts. It was great.
It's like real sort of reminds me of the Carol Burnett show with Tim Conway and Harvey Korman, when Tim Conway would just make up. He wouldn't necessarily always follow the script, and they didn't know what he was going to say or do.
Exactly.
And it just happened, and it was more enjoyable than if they had.
Well, it's so alive.
Yeah.
It's so alive because you're in the moment.
You're in the moment.
No one knows what's going to happen next.
Which is why I always love live television, live radio, and I've done years of live television, live radio, and stage work. And it's the adrenaline building of the anything can happen,
right.
And it's live, and people are reacting live, and it's happening live. So though I've done scripted and pre-produced stuff and teleprompter and other, my favorite is live. Anything where we're here, we're live. This is the action. This is now. It just fills me and inspires me, and all cylinders are firing, and I'm, hearing everything and seeing everything, and there's so many things going on all at the same time. It's very invigorating, and and then when it's done, you collapse on the couch.
When I do concerts here in New York, or when I was doing concerts here in New York in cabaret stages, I love all the cabaret stages around New York because it's good piano, good lighting, good sound. And I would just put a song list up and just go. And I would have friends. My friend Bill Goffey, I think he's one of the guys who was down here, Billy Boy. He's a guitar player, bass player. He kind of knows my music. And I said, Bill, I don't know what songs we're gonna do, and I don't know what order we're gonna do them in, but just follow along.
Right, which is the best, right? I mean, that's the best. And Marsha,
the audience can feel that electricity.
She says it was very brave to do that too.
It was brave,
and everybody was into it. Nobody was fearful or resistant or nervous about. Just anything goes. Sometimes people need things to be rehearsed and very structured.
Some of the performers were freaking out. Theater performers especially are used to having everything laid out, and if they haven't had training in improv or anything, then it's really very frightening for them.
Yes.
So I made sure that their part was rehearsed, so they would have something very solid to stand on. And then I would just say, you know your number. That's all you need to know. And then just hang in with the rest of us, and we'll just get this thing going.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love that energy of just, and the audience feels it too, because then it feels so in the moment, so alive, and they get caught up in that energy as I get their energy and they get my energy back. It's just
Right.
It's the best kind of concert ever, because then they don't feel like they're, they could put on a tape and just,
Right. And I've seen that actually up close and personal in many scenarios where I've been in studios where they would bring somebody in who is, professionally trained specifically in acting, not necessarily in hosting and things live in the studio, and freeze right up on camera. Like, there's no net. I just have to say something. There's no script. It's just me out there doing it. And then I've seen the reverse sometimes where I've seen like a host go out and try to do acting and not necessarily jump at that either, because they feel it's boxed. They need the freedom of the anything goes. I've seen both of them both. I've done both. I enjoy both. But I've seen some where it's one's definitely an actor, one's definitely a news broadcaster or host or whatever they are,
right?
Which is really interesting. Does it?
I didn't have any acting training when I began doing the last session, and I was asked to come out and actually perform as Gideon in Indianapolis at the small theater in Indianapolis, and I had that same feeling. About a week into the show, I thought, I got to say the same words every night. It just felt so weird to me because I'm totally improvisational when I do concerts. Sort
of assembly line, just.
And when I came back here to New York, for the past 5 years, I've been studying under Andy Gale, a noted acting teacher here and director. And I've been learning the process of acting. And I've started to understand how to improv and to be present with words that you already know.
Right. Every single time. Right. Exactly. What would be a piece of advice you'd give somebody who wants to go into this line of work, into music, into being composer, musician, or any of this, having done this as long as you have, Steve?
Prepare to be broke.
Be an accountant instead. If the backup plan is being an accountant,
get a job. I would say do what you love. Don't try to follow the crowd. I can't write TikTok music. I really don't. Write what you love. Write from your heart. Write
TikTok
the music.
Has music? I thought it's just like for 20 minutes.
They have little things that people can act to, and they're fun. It's a lot of fun stuff. I'm not knocking that kind of music at all. The more electronic style music, I just don't relate to it because my music is a lot more
real instruments,
soulful, and more country and gospel style music. But I would say,
got a depth.
Follow your heart, and practice. No matter what you do, you can't do it without putting in hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of work on your instrument. Learn what you're doing, because otherwise you'll always be just an amateur up there floating around and not knowing what you're doing. And it's very easy in this world to get famous for doing just something stupid. But then what do you do after that? Do something else stupid?
Right. Then you end up, you're in that box. Once you do the stupid thing, you're going to be known for that for really forever. Absolutely. Well, we did none of that tonight. Nothing stupid on this show tonight. Lots of inspiration and great conversation. Matter of fact, the great conversations and really impacting our viewers, our loveties. This is such an awesome evening. Thank you. You're welcome, Anne.
Thank you, Anne.
Marsha. Jim, thanks for bringing Steve to us. Absolutely, Marsha.
Thank you, Marsha.
Kathleen, thanks for a great show. And Marilyn, thank you for giving us such an inspirational evening. Bernadette says her teenager, who's a performer, singer as well, is listening to the words.
Right. Oh, by the way, I do have a piece of advice. And this came from a musical director in Australia. And as I said, my music, I don't think you really knew me before we had this conversation. I'm not really a famous person, right? And so I got a note from this musical teacher. And he conducts for musicals down in Australia. And he said, I got to tell you something. Your songs from the last session, I give them to my students. And whenever they audition for a show, they always get the job because your songs are acting songs. And also the people who are listening, they don't know those songs. And so they want you to sing all the way through the end.
Right, right.
So my advice is, if you're going to go into musical theater, learn my songs and you'll always get the gig.
That is a good way. I like that. That's a good way to put it. And Danilo in San Diego says, Steve, thanks for caring from your heart. It's a wonderful feeling that radiates from you. And Kathy Short, your story was very interesting. Thanks for sharing it with us as well. Christine says, Steve, you're an exceptional person, musician, so talented, caring, giving, inspirational, and much more. Thanks for
No,
being
she doesn't know me real.
with your life stories. I mean, you have a lot to live up to here tonight, right?
my brothers will contradict you on every one of those things.
Yes. And where's Corky? Corky, you still with us? Thank you for your advice, Steve. Noted. She's appreciative as well. Her teenager who's getting into her foot into the world of music.
Study, learn, and sing my songs.
and sing your songs and be good to people and do the right thing. Be good to people and do the right thing. Amazing conversation. Juanita in South Africa. Love listening to your story, Steve. Beautiful music. Great show, Jim. Thank you very much, Juanita. We appreciate that. Bernadette, your warmth and wit shine through. Thanks for sharing and for caring. You got it. Steve, this was fantastic.
Thank you, Jim.
Steve with the 2 L's in his name, and the silent L in the middle. So tell a story about the last name. You said it's got a Swiss relation, but you probably think it would have been pronounced how?
Oh, it's probably, it's Germanic, Swiss. So it was probably originally pronounced SCHALCHLIN.
SCHALCHLIN.
But my family's from Arkansas, so it all got bitten down to SCHALCHLINs.
And Corky goes, amen.
Amen.
Well, Steve, this was awesome. Could you believe we chatted for 2 hours?
Really? Oh, wow.
It's 10 after 9. Isn't that amazing?
We're just getting started, aren't we?
It's just getting started, and we'll have to have you definitely come back. The door's always open. You're always welcome. And I hope everything met your expectations and you had as much of a grand time with me as I certainly have.
Oh, it was great. Fantastic.
You enjoyed yourself. Perfect. What are you going to do next? What can top this? Play with the cat?
Yeah, I'm going to go eat.
You haven't eaten yet?
No.
So this is a food crowd. The last guest told us what they were going to have. Was it gumbo? No, that was Sunday's guest. Julia was going to make gumbo. How about you? What do you have?
Well, I'm a real foodie these days, and I cook all my own food. And the first thing I do in the morning is I not poach, but blanch a bunch of broccoli and peas and carrots and stuff, and I make a kind of a big mix, and then I put that as a side dish for sometimes of like fake chicken, like chicken, what they call it, CHICK apostrophe N, fake chicken.
So it's got like a misspelling or something, yeah.
But I eat a lot of vegetables. In fact, my breakfast is broccoli and hummus. It's my favorite breakfast.
So you take the broccoli and scoop it into the hummus.
Yeah, 3 minutes. Boil it 3 minutes. Boil it 3 minutes, and it's exactly perfect it's not too hard. And then I just eat that with hummus, and it's a fantastic way to wake up.
Is there anything that you can't eat, or no? Your diet's not limited?
My diet is not limited. They want me to avoid meats because I had some kidney stones that were aggravated by eating meat. Yeah. So I eat a lot of seafood and chicken and occasionally hamburger, but I generally eat largely vegetarian.
That's good. That's good. Danilo says, thank you, Steve. Good night. Stay safe. Good night, Mr. Loverty. Absolutely. And thanks for an inspirational guest.
My pleasure.
You are food and pets. He's definitely a Loverty. That's it. Just getting started, Ted says. Mary Bishop says, thank you so much, Steve. It was wonderful. Stay safe. Marcia says, perfect. Steve, this was really fantastic. And I appreciate all the time and playing for us live and opening up about your life. I think we had a wonderful, relatable conversation too, about so many different things that, we experience in life. And it was great conversing with you and having some levity and lovity here on the show with you. And Kathleen saying, thank you, Steve and Jim, eat more chicken. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. We have a big panda, and she's begging for us to see it, but he's off on the side. We'll have to do that on the weekend.
Oh, I see. You have a guitar. You have a guitar in your background too.
We got all kinds of things here. Yeah, we've got quite a, and usually sometimes Bernadette says, please stay safe and stay well.
Yes.
A lot of times we also open the show usually with this. I mean, we go full Monty here. Lights, camera, action. The whole lights, camera, action on the Jim Master Show Live.
See, I've got my little Les Paul right here.
Oh yeah, let's see. Hank, bring that back so we can see it full screen.
I love it. I love this guitar. I play it all the time.
Really, really nice.
In fact, in acting class, I learned. I don't remember it now because it was a while ago, but I learned this long speech from Richard II, the Shakespeare play Richard II, where he's in prison. And I sat down and I wrote a country song based on his last speech. And I thought I've been threatening to put a show together called Cowboy Doing Shakespeare, which is a horrible idea, but I might try it anyway.
Well, we'll have to definitely hear that. So you'll have to come back. Corky says, thank you, Jim.
But you should have grown up with him. I was a horrible brother.
So now what kind of brother were you?
Apparently I was an abusive, horrible older brother.
Aren't they all to the younger siblings?
Well, I didn't know. What did I know? I was a kid too.
So you might as well stick here with all the levity. So great to meet you.
Thank you so much, Marcia.
Yeah. And Tess, who's an actress, comedian, and voiceover artist in Florida.
Oh, wow.
God bless you. She was a guest a couple of nights ago. We had a grand time with her. She's baking cookies and sending them to me too. So she's definitely a levity. God bless you, Steve. Thank you for playing for us, telling these heartwarming stories and teaching us wisdom and love. I'm a huge fan. Thanks, Jim, for always putting together an amazing conversation. Mine and our pleasure as well. And Christopher goes, Les Paul. Christopher's a performer as well in Ohio. So this is the land of 2.5-hour goodbyes, if they didn't tell you. It's like,
I'm not leaving.
We're not good goodbye people. So we say, see you later.
See you later.
None of us like to say goodbye. Oh, look, you were a great big brother.
Oh, Corky. Thank you. He's lying.
I noticed he used past tense.
Right. Well, he's a great guy. He was a cop for a long time, and he's now the head of the Texas Narcotics Officers Association. So he's a very well respected.
The stories he could tell, the things that he sees. He's
he put his life on
every day. God bless him, huh?
He put his life on line. My brother David was also a cop, retired now, but they both, every time they walk out there, they put their lives on the line. And
for all of us, every day, absolutely. So on that note,
okay.
Now that we're
Jim,
we're safe,
I'm gonna go eat.
Protected. You go eat. You have your chicken. SCHALCHLIN with the double L's. And it was a pleasure having you here. And thanks for all the time. And we will chat again soon. It was really a blessing having you with us and opening up again about your life and sharing so much of it with us and with all the viewers around the world and all these beautiful comments coming in. People really enjoying the music, the conversation, the levity as well, Steve. And we appreciate it and hope you come back real soon.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You take care now. And say goodnight to Jim and to Leo.
I will.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Meow.
That's exit stage left. See you later. Maybe I just won't let you go.
Okay, we'll just sit here and talk some more.
Okay, what are you having for breakfast tomorrow? No,
I'm having broccoli.
Broccoli. No. He lives on just broccoli and hummus.
Broccoli and hummus.
So buy stock in broccoli and buy stock in hummus.
There you go.
Keep it going. Take care, my friend. We'll see you again.
So long.
Bye-bye now. Wasn't it great having Steve on the show? A tremendous guest. And thanks to all of you with all the levity comments and all the wonderful levity and all the you guys shared some wonderful, beautiful things about your lives as well, opening up and relatable experiences and opening up about your lives too during our conversation. Some more comments coming in here from all over. Christopher says, great night all. And Jennifer says, Steve, where's your Zen place? You love the mountains. Well, he's in New York, so I would say probably maybe the ocean. Praise for Corky. Absolutely. Yeah. Guys, you guys are terrific. It's terrific having all of you here. I want to let you know as well as we thank our very special guest, Steve SCHALCHLIN here, and he's really amazing and very talented, and it was a blessing having him on the show. He really opened up about his life, as I think we all did tonight, which was really beautiful. And one big community spirit we have here on the Jim Masters Show live with light, love, levity, lots of L's. Lots of L's in this show. And we thank him for joining us as well. I do want to let you know, coming on November 15th, I was just chatting with him today. Phil Coulter, legendary record producer, musician, and songwriter Phil Coulter, live from Ireland, which happens to be on their highest level of lockdown right now, level 5. They can't leave the houses. They can't meet with anybody. Ireland is really taking it all seriously. But Phil Coulter will be here live on November 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on our YouTube channel. He is extraordinary, and we really look forward to that show as well. As I mentioned, also coming up in November, Glenn Scarpelli, star of One Day at a Time on CBS and so many other great productions and projects. He's going to be a guest here on the show as well. And also want to let you guys know that we are going to have a Halloween costume party on Halloween night. That is a week from this Saturday. We're going to be live. It's going to be exclusively on our YouTube channel. And if you guys have costume pictures, your Halloween costumes, past or present, could even be when you were a kid, or maybe a costume that you're going to be wearing this year, even though there's nowhere to really go. Maybe you're just going to dance around your house. We are going to be doing something really special, a Halloween costume party episode live Saturday, October 31st, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Jim Masters Show Live. Join us exclusively on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. And you can send your photos, your costume photos, to jimmasterstv@gmail.com by Friday, October 30th. So by Friday, October 30th, if you want to send in some photos, we may be showing your photos live during our Halloween costume party, during that Halloween costume party episode on Saturday, October 31st. We're really looking forward to that. Just some updates here. Thank you very much, Kathleen. Have a great night, Jim. Good night, everyone. Stay safe and be well. You too. Danilo in San Diego says, good night, lovities. You too. Thank you, Jim. My pleasure, Marcia, as well. Bernadette says, as always, I hope everyone stays safe and stay well. Thank you, Jim. Oh, it was our pleasure, Bernadette, our pleasure. Good night, stay safe. Halloween, 11 more days, can't wait. Yes, a lot of things coming up in a few days here as well. All right, gang, and also, again, for those who are October in the United States, and I think in other places, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we obviously take a moment to think about those who might be struggling with breast cancer and any type of cancer right now. Of course, the American Cancer Society is also a wonderful place. I used to do a TV show for them, public affairs show. So again, if you've lost somebody to breast cancer or cancer at all, male or female, any age, we take a moment to think about them during this month of October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Very therapeutic session. Thanks, Jim, for another amazing show. Good night, everyone. You are very, very welcome. We're going to be back tomorrow night as well. We've got a great guest on Wednesday night joining us. So stay tuned for that. And a great night, 2 hours and 20 minutes. We are going to wrap. We hope you had a great time with us. Don't forget to smile, That's right. Don't forget to share the lovity. Find your Zen place, wherever that might be. I love the ocean. We thank our friends at LMG for their time and attention and care. We appreciate them, Lamkin Music Group as well. And we thank all of you. Thanks for joining us here on the Jim Masters Show live worldwide every night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for being with us. Love you all. Take care. Keep spreading the word. Tell everybody about our shows. Lots of great episodes coming up. Some exciting things happening as well. Don't forget, we're doing a Halloween costume party. So email us those pictures of you in costume, and we might even pick a winner and have that person be on the show with me that night. Maybe. All right. All the details are on the Facebook page at Jim Masters TV on Facebook. All right. We'll see you soon. Good night.